From here on out till the end of the presentation, we're going to be focusing on some challenges that are associated with manipulating either the IV or both the IV and the DV when we are trying to design a study for a test of mediation that that maximizes the causal inferences that we can make as a result of our analyses. So first of all, there's this idea of a construct validity issue that may occur when we manipulate a variable. So on the y-axis, we have either the mediator or the outcome of the analysis, so it can be either M or Y. And then we have our IV, or it could be our mediator if we're manipulating both. And we have low and high ends of that variable. So let's, I'll just take a simple example that I may have used before in this class, but the relationship between stress and performance on a cognitive task. So there is evidence that we have that stress and performance on a cognitive task, it has this inverted U shape as depicted by the red curved line. So this is, we're going to assume the true relationship between stress and performance such that at low levels of stress we won't perform the task very well, neither will we perform it well at high levels. But in the middle we're going to have the maximum performance. If you are trying to manipulate a variable and it has this, the function of this shape, then you have to make sure that you have three conditions, low, medium, and high, in order to capture the full range of that function. So as you can imagine, if we simply had a low and a high manipulation, so let's say we manipulated people's stress, but in a way that was ethical and good. So I don't know what that would be, but let's say we manipulated some people to have a higher level of stress. Maybe we asked them to do a public speaking performance. So we told them that they would be in front of a large audience and they would have to prepare a speech. Most people are terrified of public speaking. So that would be the high stress condition. And the low stress condition, they would simply sit in a room by themselves and be bored. So if we had high and low on that variable, but there was a curvilinear relationship in reality, like we see with the red line, we would see this green. If we tried to correlate the IV and the DV, we would see no relationship, right? Because we had some low and some high, and we didn't capture the middle part. So we couldn't model that curvilinearity, and thus we would have that green line there, no relationship. But that would be a false inference, right? Because we wouldn't have a properly specified model because we think that this relationship is linear when it's a curvilinear one. And so we have to create our manipulations appropriately if we expect the relationship to be curvilinear as it is here. So in the other case, let's say we had low stress and then moderate stress as two conditions. So that would be evidenced by the blue line, and it would show a positive relationship. So we put some people in the condition of low, some people in the condition of high, and then we would make the wrong inference that the relationship between stress and the outcome is linear and it's positive. If we somehow took moderate levels of stress and high levels of stress and made manipulations or conditions based on those, and then we ran the data, we would incorrectly conclude that the relationship is negative and linear, as in the purple line. So see the purple line, we would have data points only in that area, moderate and high, and we would make a wrong conclusion yet again. So the only way that we can make a correct conclusion is if we sampled both low, so we had a condition for low stress, moderate stress, and then high stress. So that is really important to keep in mind for any kind of experiment that we're doing. So another person who speaks about this, I believe, is Elliot Aronson, and he wrote a little gray book. Actually, I don't know what color it is now, but there's several editions, but It's called Research for Social Psychology or something like that. It's one of the best books on research methods I've ever read, and of course it's out of print. But anyway, he talks about this as well, and he talks about this idea that for any experiment, doesn't matter if it's a mediation, test, we always have to think about this construct issue and linearity when we are designing our conditions for an experiment. However, Stone, Romero, and Rasopa argue that it is doubly important to think about this issue for mediation, because if we don't have this right for mediation, it will create all kinds of crazy inferences, and it's not good. So, and this matters because one of my students for his dissertation was looking at a manipulation. He wanted to manipulate job autonomy. So he asked participants to imagine themselves in a job that gives you lots of decision latitude versus no decision latitude. And there's some evidence in the literature now that that relationship is curvilinear, like this red line is, such that if we have low autonomy or decision-making latitude, we won't be very happy in the job, but neither will we be happy at very high levels, because that will be stressful. When we have too much latitude for decision-making, then there's a lot of uncertainty in the environment, and we'll become stressed and won't be happy. So there's this evidence and argument. People have argued that that the best levels of decision-making latitude is in the middle, and that leads to the most satisfaction on your job. So I had to caution him, because he was doing a moderated mediation where he was manipulating the IV, and he had this sequence, and I had to caution him that if this relationship is curvilinear in the population, then he needs to develop a 3 condition manipulation rather than just 2, to be able to capture the full spectrum of that, the full variance of that IV, basically. And so it turns out that we found out that there was enough debate in the literature that the relationship was linear, or enough evidence that was linear, so he didn't have to develop the 3. But the point is that when you're thinking about doing good research, you have to think about the shape of the function in the population, and then do the right stat analysis accordingly. So select the statistical analysis that's going to capture that, and also create a manipulation that will capture all of those levels as well.